Today is 5 February 2009. We are in Ballston Spa at the Saratoga County Veterans Transitional Home, and we are doing an interview with Mr. Little. Sir, for the record, please state your full name and your date and place of birth.
Donald Charles Little. My date of birth is May 13th, 1949.
Okay, and where were you born?
Elmira, New York.
Okay, and did you grow up in Elmira and go to school in Elmira?
Yes, I did. I lived in Elmira till 1982, and then we moved to the Albany area.
Okay, and you graduated from high school in Elmira?
I graduated from Southside High School in Elmira.
Okay, and what year did you graduate?
1967.
Okay, and after graduation, did you go on to college or to work?
I attended Corning Community College for approximately a year and a half, and then I dropped out of college and went to work at Sears, and that was during the time when the draft was in place, and I received a notice to go for a physical in June, and in August of 1969 I was inducted into the U.S. Army.
Okay. So you were drafted for 2 years?
Yes.
Okay. And whereabouts did you go for your basic training?
Fort Dix, New Jersey.
Okay. Was that excuse me? Was that basically your first time away from home?
Yes, that was my first time away from home.
Mm-hmm. And what was basic training like at Fort Dix?
It was kind of a challenge. You know, one of the things, the ways that I've always looked at things is I want to put forth my best effort, and so I really, while you know, you hear a lot of stories about basic training, I really kind of enjoyed the challenges of some of it, and as a matter of fact, one of the goals was you could go from E1 to E2 if you were recognized for accomplishing certain things in the basic training, and I was able to do that.
After basic training, you went to school to be a medic?
Yes, at Fort Sam Houston.
Now, did you choose that, or did the Army choose that for you?
The Army chose that for me.
Okay.
Yes, I had no medical background at all. No thoughts of even being in the medical field.
Okay. What was that school like?
It was interesting in terms of being something that I really hadn't very little experience in, and so most of the companies down there that at Fort Sam Houston that were going through the medic training were being sent to Vietnam at that time. But as far as the training, the question that you asked me, what was my reaction to the training? It was I enjoyed some of it.
Was it difficult and pretty intense?
Some of it was, yes. You know, and to think that you might be put into a situation where some of the things that you were learning might make the difference with somebody else's life. Yes.
Do you think the training you received there prepared you for what you saw in Vietnam?
No, not at all. I think it was a 10-week training, and I mean, our company didn't go to Vietnam. I ended up spending some time in an ambulance unit in Fort Polk, Louisiana, prior to going to Vietnam. but I don't think it, in any way did it really prepare you for what you might experience over there.
At Fort Polk, were you really able to work in your MOS, or?
Really, you really didn't work. We were responsible. We had, again, like I said, I was in the ambulance company. We provided coverage at the hospitals, the firing range, maybe the basic training companies, so you didn't really have too much exposure to things that would really prepare you for, or help prepare you for what Vietnam might bring. Yes.
Now, how long were you at Fort Polk?
I was at Fort Polk from, I believe, November of 1969 to, it was just about a year.
Okay.
It would have been just about a year.
And then you received orders for Vietnam?
Yes. Well, while I was at Fort Polk, not being one of my top 3 choices of places that I would like to be in the military, and that was kind of the case with most of the people I think that were at Fort Polk. They wanted to get out of there. I ended up putting in for, they had an opportunity where you could apply to go to this program where they tested different Army equipment and different experiments that were going on, and so I applied for that, and I ended up going to Edgewood Arsenal it was right outside of Baltimore, Maryland.
What was that like for you?
It was interesting. I mean, just to give you an example, I mean, one of the things that I participated in while I was there, they were testing gas masks, and so you know, you would be put into a situation where you would test the gas mask, and then there would be a follow-up, and they would ask you questions that they had about your experience in that. I was there for about a month and a half. And that was when I got my orders for Vietnam.
Did you get to go home on leave before going over?
Well, that was one of the incentives about going to the program is that there was a lot of leave built into it, so that I could get home on the weekend. Being that Baltimore wasn't that far from New York, I was able to get home on the weekends, and sometimes they were extended because of participating in some of the experiments that they were working on.
Now, did you have your own vehicle at that time?
No, I didn't. I would use the bus to get home, or I had family that would come down and pick me up and take me home.
Were you surprised when you eventually did get your orders for Vietnam?
I was a little surprised because I figured, you know, the tour over there was a year, and I was down to about 11 months. And so when my orders came through for me to go to Vietnam, I was a little surprised that I was going.
So you went over there with a little less than a year left.
Yes.
Okay. And where did you leave from to go to Vietnam?
I left from Oakland.
Okay.
And I returned to Fort Lewis, Washington. When I came back from Vietnam, I came through Fort Lewis, Washington.
Okay. Whereabouts did you land in Vietnam?
I was in Benoit, the Air Force base right there, and that was where I came into the country, and then from there I was taken to where the 25th Infantry Division headquarters were. That was where I was assigned.
When you stepped off the plane in Vietnam, what was your impression?
Well, I had a funny experience because while while I was over in Vietnam, I really only seen a couple people that I had knew prior to going over there. And one of the individuals that was getting on the plane to come home was from my hometown.
Oh.
And the interesting thing about it is we went to high school together. We were never very close, but I knew who he was, he knew who I was. And he was on his way home, and I was just coming in with my new jungle fatigues, so the feelings that I mean, it was like, and again, it was around Christmas time when I was coming in, so you know, I was thinking about, you know, just getting through this time and you know, being able to tolerate whatever assignment I was given over there.
Okay. Now, were you sent up to the 25th Division right away?
Well, the way it works is that you were taken to an area, and then they would there was like they're not really barracks, but that were an area where you were housed, and then you had to go out into, they would call you out every morning, and the first morning that I was there, that was from the area. I'm not really 100% sure of how all this worked, and again, you know, it's been a while. So, but anyway, they called my name for the 25th Infantry Division, and there was another medic he was a medic too from Connecticut that we both ended up with going to the 25th Infantry Division.
Okay, and whereabouts was the 25th located at that time?
It was right in Benoit, and they so you know, we went to the rear, and then they very little orientation to before you're actually assigned to the company and your platoon that you're going to be with. It was I was assigned to Alpha Company, and the other medic Bob from Connecticut, I can't remember his last name, but he went to Charlie Company.
Okay, so you were based out of Benoit at that point?
Yes.
Okay, and how long was it before you actually went out on patrol?
It wasn't that long. It was within a couple weeks. I went out to fire base, and that, I believe it was Fire Base Mary Ian, and you met, the medics had an area there in the fire base, there where the aid station was, and then you were given information about, you know, which platoon you were going to be, which company you were going to be assigned to, and got your aid bags ready, and all the essential information that you needed to go out into the field, and you had an opportunity to maybe talk to some of the medics that weren't out on a mission, and you know, be able to ask questions about, you know, some of the things that I needed to know to be able to be effective in being a medic.
Talking to the other medics, what was their, I don't know if you could narrow it down to what was the main type of wounds they dealt with? Were they gunshot wounds, shrapnel wounds, or was it a case of, you know, being out and contracting dysentery, or?
Well, one of the things that I remember, and this was the thing that I think I was most beneficial with, is I know that there was a lot of problems with the guys that they would have with feet, and with their feet, and so we would try to carry, you know, medications, things that would help them with those. I would always, you know, that way. It wasn't so. The thing that I was impressed upon me is our job was really to get the if somebody was wounded, to get them, you know, to apply the basic first aid that you can have, you know, stop the bleeding and make sure that you get help and get them into you know, an area where they could receive the whatever medical attention that it was required. But that was our job is to really to get them out of those kind of situations. And so, like, as a medic, I used to carry 2 aid bags, so that you know, I wanted my platoon to know that I was there for them to help them, and if there was anything that I could do to make it a little bit easier for them, that I would.
Did you find that your equipment and supplies were adequate?
Yes, I guess for what we were supposed to, what our job was, I think it was. I mean, there was probably situations, not for myself, but for others, where it may not have been, you know, there may not have been items in the aid bag that needed to be there, but for me, I didn't experience that.
How many times did you go out on patrol before you actually came under fire? Did that happen right away, or did it take a while?
I think it was about a month and a half. We got radio that there was some enemy that was in the area, and they were headed supposed to be headed in our direction, and they did appear, and as far as I know, that there was one of those that were killed at that time. We didn't experience any casualties at that time.
Now, were you fighting the NVA or VC?
I believe these were VC.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And at what point were the personnel in your platoon, was somebody wounded?
Well, again, you know, it was, and I had a pretty quick orientation to this, but because as soon as I got out, the day I was out went to the fire base, there was an accident right on the perimeter where they were unloading grenades. And what had happened was a pin had, the handle and the pin had come out of it. I don't know, but there was a loud noise, and I was in over at the tent where the aid station was, and there was a lot of noise and yelling, and what had happened was when they were unloading the grenades, the person that was unloading them saw that this pin had come out and just panicked and dropped it, and the grenade, instead of throwing it out on the perimeter, it went off, and it was a staff sergeant that had a lot of shrapnel from, and I don't really know whatever happened to him, because again, he was taken to an evacuation hospital, or where he could get the attention that he needed.
Were you involved in his treatment?
Just where he come over to the aid station, and then he was taken, like I said, by helicopter to probably an evacuation hospital. The only real bad experience that I had was that we used to set up a line with claymores, and we used to put grenades in front of them so like if there was, we would set them up across a path or an area that we thought that either the enemy was using, and we were taking it down. It was being taken down. I wasn't close to it, but one of the guys in my platoon ended up that when they pulled, they would explode the claymores, and with a grenade placed in back of it, there was some shrapnel, and it got in his eye, and so I applied immediate first aid, and we got him back to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
But that was really, I mean, for casualties, that was, I never had anybody that was actually had been shot or
Mm-hmm.
wounded from enemy fire.
Okay. While you were out on patrol, did you ever witness any of the enemy, or did you have to treat the enemy soldiers at all?
I never treated any of the enemy soldiers. I saw, which again, shortly after I started going out on the missions, we had set up one of these lines with the claymores and grenades, and I experienced there was when we went up to they were detonated, and we heard that. I mean, we weren't very far from it, and so once there's a procedure that you go through once that happens, and when we went up there, there was I believe there was 3 bodies that were on that trail, and I remember looking at them and seeing how I mean, the Vietnamese, I think, tended to take on a younger look anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But it just really, I mean, that was, I was looking at it, and that was my first experience with death, really, and seeing somebody that, that was what we were there to do, is to, but yet it was hard to look at those faces, and I began to think about, their families, and that they had a life like I did.
Mm-hmm. Now, they were Viet Cong?
I believe they were VC, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Now, typically, how long were you out on a patrol?
We would go out for, I believe it's 9 days,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'd come back in.
Okay. And did you have to treat any kind of tropical diseases? Obviously, with the wet feet and that.
There was I mean, because you were in the wet a lot, and there was you had leeches that would get on the guys, and so we had ointments and that we would provide for them. There was powder, talc. I used to use a lot of go through a lot of foot powder.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I was thinking about was this the fever that
Not dengue fever.
not no, but the pills that you would
For malaria?
Malaria, yeah. We'd have them available.
Mm-hmm.
But we did carry morphine, syrettes, and that kind of thing. But as far as I never had to administer anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Now, typically, when you were out on like a 9-day patrol, were you resupplied with hot chow at all?
Every 3 days,
Uh-huh.
we would be, excuse me, we'd be resupplied, and they would bring it out. I mean, for the most part, it was you would be resupplied by a helicopter. They would have a helicopter bring out a hot meal,
Mm-hmm.
and then like any ammunition or mail, we'd get mail.
Mm-hmm.
Cigarettes would be brought out, and that was very consistent. 3 days, and we'd go to an area where the company get resupplied.
Okay. As a medic, did you carry a weapon?
Yes, I did.
What kind of weapon did you carry?
An M16.
And did you have anything on your uniform that designated that you were a medic at all?
No, because like when you got resupplied, you would get old jungle fatigues, and you would just take something that or try to find something that somewhat fit, and but there was no designation that you were the medic, except for the aid bags that you might be carrying.
Okay. Now you were with the 25th. Oh, you did receive the combat medic badge?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
At what point did you receive that?
Well, I think you have to be in country for, you have to be with a infantry unit for, I was thinking, I'm not sure what the amount of time that you actually have to be assigned to be able to receive that, but it's almost automatic. That I mean, if you're in combat with an infantry unit or whoever you were assigned to, is if you're in combat, you would be eligible to receive that.
Okay. Now you were with the 25th until they stood down.
Yes.
Was it?
Yes, I was with the 25th Infantry Division, and I believe it was in March or April of '71 that they ended up going back to Hawaii. But I didn't have enough time in country to go back to Hawaii, so I ended up going to the Americal division, which was my assignment was in Chu Lai, and it was with an artillery unit, the 1st the 18th Artillery Unit.
Okay. And how did you get to Chu Lai?
I was flown up there.
On a C-130?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And what was life like for you in Chu Lai?
Well, it was a lot. It was quite a few steps above what it was. Better than with the well, the 25th Infantry Division was stationed in Benoit, and we worked out in out of the fire bases, so we didn't really see Benoit very much. But life in Chu Lai was quite a bit easier because it was back in the rear, an aid station, right on the south. We weren't far from the South China Sea, and most of our work was with individuals that were, or GIs that were going back, making sure their shot record was up to date, or treating individuals that that were back in the rear, that didn't need really immediate first aid, but just things that would make life a little bit easier for them while they were there.
In Chu Lai, what kind of living quarters did you have?
I lived in the building. It housed all the medics. It was like a one-story screened. We had refrigerators that, if the generators were working, we had access to refrigerators. There was the shower was a 55-gallon drum with but I mean, again, you had and life there was a whole lot easier. I mean, you're just there was things to do there.
There were clubs and mess halls. And
yes, yeah. You had the food. You weren't eating sea rations, and you were getting regular meals in the mess hall, and like I said, you had a few things to do while you were there.
Did you see any entertainment at all, like USO shows or Bob Hope?
I never seen any of those when I was there. They had in the NCO clubs, but the Enlisted Men Club, there, where you could go there and you know, on different nights they would have entertainment there. We had access. I had access to that when I was there.
Now, what rank were you at that point?
When I went to Chu Lai, it was an E4, but then I made E5 while I was there. Shortly after I got there.
Okay. How long were you there in Chu Lai?
I think it was from about March till I went home in August.
And you went home in August because you were ETSing?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And when you left Vietnam, where did you fly into?
We from Vietnam we into the U.S. We right into Washington, Fort Lewis, Washington.
Okay. And you were discharged from Fort Lewis?
Yes.
Okay. And then you went back home to Elmira?
Yes. Well, prior to coming to going to Vietnam, I was married.
Uh-huh.
We got married on November 7th, my wife and I, and then I.
Now, where did you meet your wife?
I met her. I met her in Elmira, and I have a. The date is I don't have a hard time because it was the first night that we went out. It was the night they landed on the moon.
Oh.
The first trip to the moon. So, but we really didn't know each other. We dated and we corresponded while I was in the military, and then made a decision that we would get married before I went to Vietnam. And really, the getting to know each other part happened afterwards. But I'm happy to say, I mean, when you hear Vietnam vets in marriage, it isn't always a good outcome. But we've been married for over 38 years now, so that really is a good thing, and we have a good marriage.
Now, when you were in Vietnam, did you get any kind of R&R at all?
They had some in-country R&R that I could have participated in. I didn't. I didn't participate in an out-of-country R&R because one of our goals when we went over was to try to save some money to put down on a house when we came back. So I didn't take an out-of-country R&R either.
Okay. Did you encounter any sort of animosity or protest or anti-war movement people traveling back to the area in uniform at all? At any of the airports? Anywhere?
I never really experienced, any. I didn't have any bad experiences that way. I do remember, though, because of the way things were in this country and the reaction that our country was having to our involvement in Vietnam. When I went back to school to finish up my associate's degree, I remember not wanting to have anybody know that I had actually been involved in that. And as I look back at it now, I really, those not being able to be proud of your service, to be able to talk about it with people and have them respect that you participated in something like that, it was difficult for me. And it's taken me, I've really, because of my involvement with veterans since, coming back from Vietnam, and now because it has been part of what I do as a job. It's given me some time to really think about, that and really look at why shouldn't I have been able to be proud of my service in Vietnam? And I think that, you know, when I look at the vets returning today from either, you know, those that have returned from the Gulf War or Iraq or Iran, and how they're looked upon is a whole lot different than how we were in some of the, but you know, again, you know, and I've always said this, I think Vietnam was a different experience for everybody, experienced it a little bit differently.
Now, did you stay in contact with anyone you were in the service with?
I haven't. There was one individual that when I was down at Fort Polk that we ended up meeting over in Vietnam, and he also came to my house after the service. He visited my wife and I, but I haven't kept in contact with anybody that I served with.
Okay. What about veterans organizations like the VFW, the Legion?
I belong. I'm an active member in VBA.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And of course, you made use of the GI Bill.
Yes. 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 I used all of it. I finished up my associate's degree and was able to get a bachelor's degree, and even when in my time that I worked for the New York State Department of Corrections was almost 30 actually years. They had when I started out as in corrections as a correction officer, and they had because our training was 13 weeks long, you could use your GI Bill for on-the-job training. So I used a good portion of it for that.
Okay. How do you think your time in the service changed or affected your life?
Well, it's had a significant impact on it because I never thought when I went into the military that I would be in a position where I would be working with, a lot of it would be working with others that have served in the military. And I really am thankful for the opportunity to be able to be in a position to do that and to be able to help others that have served in the military. Because I think that one of the things that that always troubled me and some of it was brought on myself because I had no desire to stay in the military. All I wanted to do was get out. And so I really didn't look at some of the resources that might be available to me other than immediate ones like we talked about the GI Bill, and I had some dental work done and that. But I think that is really the case for a lot of veterans that come out of the military. They don't really look at some of the resources that are available to them. I think they do a little bit better job now than when I came out. But I still think that oftentimes a lot of the things that might be available for the vets are not taken advantage of, and it could make a difference in their lives. So, as I mentioned, when I worked in corrections, one of the things that we try to do and there is a lot of veterans that end up into that situation. We try to help them sort that out, as to what kinds of things might be available to them to help put their lives back together.
All right. Is there anything else you want to touch on that we may have missed?
No, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about this and appreciate your interest in doing something like this, because I think that it's something that veterans need, especially in the era that I served. I think it's good that we can talk about these things now, whereas you hear so many of the vets that served in not just Vietnam, but like even before Vietnam, that just didn't want to talk about their time in the service. So I appreciate your efforts too.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for your participation in the program, and thank you for your service, and welcome home.
Thank you.